and welcome to the SFL podcast presented to you exclusively by APM Music through the power of YouTube. I am your host with the most, Jack Brown. Yes, I finally obtained my host with the most status, alongside the three R's of Round Table: Ryan Michaels, Ramos Lynn, and Rob Roby. There we go. I think I pronounced that correctly this week. And well, boys, we got ourselves some Week 10 action to come up with and some playoffs. Just a brief rundown of how that's looking so far. The automatic qualifiers are Alaska, Tallahassee, Carolina, Queen City, Sioux Falls, and Tulsa in that exact order. And then for the wild cards, it is Mexico City, Baltimore, New Orleans, and Houston. Within the hunt being Las Vegas, Chicago, Atlanta, Oklahoma City, and London. For some reason, I don't know why London's there. Because they have theoretical chances, Jack. That's man. But anyways, first up, guys, we got a game featuring one of those two teams in the hunt. The 11th place Las Vegas Fury travels over to San Francisco to play the Sharks. A major game with major playoff implications. Ryan, how are you looking at this game and how's it going to shape up?
Um, right now I think in Las Vegas, I mean they're 11th place. They have that outside shot looking in. I don't know if I can trust them 100% just yet. The offense has been okay. The defense has been kind of okay in my opinion. Um, and San Francisco is one of those teams you just can't really sleep on basically. They have their spurts where they do just amazingly well, and then they have their spurts where they just kind of also are just kind of, we're there, we showed up, we played. Last week was an amazing game for them though. They went down to Sioux Falls, but they put up a hell of a fight at 42-39, and it's something that they're gonna need to do again if they're gonna go be able to play spoiler a little bit for Las Vegas. I mean, 493 passing yards for Roby. Uh, he completed nearly 70% of the passes, three touchdowns, no interceptions. Wasn't sacked once at all, so the offensive line really protected him pretty well. They didn't get the run game involved very much, but it worked for them at least for this week. I'd like to see a little more balance. Ogunzulu only got 3 carries. He did total 10 yards, so he was a little bit effective with those little bit of carries. He only got 3.3 yards a carry. Um, and in actuality, all of those yards came on one carry basically, and then he actually lost a yard between the next two carries. So kind of scratch what I said there. So, but back to the point being, if San Francisco is going to be able to beat Las Vegas here, I'm gonna need to see a little bit more of a balance for them. Passing the ball every single down is just not gonna cut it in this league. Um, we saw it back in season 4 with the Maulers, and I know director of player personnel he loves to give that season an asterisk. Um, but that was an entirely different league back then. We had some rules instated because of that kind of season that they had, and the playbook manipulation they had. And I believe player progression is also another thing that's going to be kind of limiting that kind of thing happening. Is teams are able to counteract that by having their actual defensive backfield progressed more towards the coverage side and have their or defensive backs able to keep up with them there. Um, and so you need to have some form of run game. Even Alaska over there, they have a non-contract running back, but they do have a star fullback to pave the way for him. And they've actually had a better run game this year than last season when they had the championship season. So that's something I need to see out of San Francisco if they're going to pull the upset. For Las Vegas to take this one home, it's kind of the flip side. They dominated the ground game last week against Denver with 171 rushing yards, but they only totaled up 128 passing yards. And part of that was Thomas Rahman just he wasn't very accurate. It looks like. I mean, he had 19 completions and 32% on 32 attempts for about 60%. Only had 128 pass yards, and he didn't throw a touchdown, and he was sacked twice. Also had two interceptions. So if they're going to be able to pull this game out and keep themselves in playoff contentions, they're really going to need to be able to find that balance, just like San Francisco um, needs to be doing as well. But it's basically opposite of what San Francisco has to do, where they need to get their passing attack more involved in their offense.
Alrighty. So, given that one to Las Vegas, so now we head down south, where Tulsa heads down to Atlanta in essentially a battle for second place in the South. The two teams both have 4 wins apiece. However, Atlanta does have one more loss. So Ramos, huge game for the Southern Conference, possibly their game of the season. How do you feel this is going to shake up?
I feel like Atlanta. I think they have one of the best running backs in the league and one of the best running backs in recent memory in BDG Hollywood. I'm a big fan of him. I'm also a big fan of Marcus Dunhill and the wide receiving core of the Atlanta Swarm, where you have people like Zeech Falco, who is the number 3 guy, but could be, well, he's the number 2 guy. Like LB Allen, for example, who is the number 3. LB Allen could be number 2 in a lot of teams, and Siege Falco, in my opinion, could be number 1 in a lot of teams. They also have obviously Boo Chisholm. The defense is really, really stout with one of the best linebackers in SFL history and Aquanta Shine, and they have a strong defensive line as well. One of the best cover corners in Patrick Ketsa, especially against the deep ball. Um, but we see a Tulsa team that right now is rolling. I mean, I could make the case that alongside Tallahassee and Alaska, they are they are the 3 teams that are rolling right now. Because we even saw Carolina drop a game. Um, we saw Queen City just drop a game. Mexico City has dropped 2 in a row. So I think it's been right now Tallahassee and Alaska alongside Tulsa, who have been the top 3 teams in the last 3 weeks here in the SFL. So I'm excited about that. With that being said, even though I like Atlanta's, um, how can I say, like they've been in this league for more time. I like their experience. I think that Tulsa just will keep on rolling, and I think they will just find a way to make it happen. You know, with Sansa Robinson and them boys, I think they will just find a way to pull off late and just maybe win the ball game late. About something 23-20 approximately. And I think that Tulsa will be able to get it and continue to roll.
Yeah, I think both of these teams are on a roll at 4-5. They're both 4.5 games back in the Southern Conference, and so I think what we're going to see here is we're going to see 2 teams that are fired up. From last week, they both took losses to the top 2 teams, as Ramos just pointed out, in Alaska and Tallahassee. So these teams have a grudge on their shoulder, and I think they both are going to come in here and have a hard fought game. So I think it's going to be a dogfight, and I think it's going to be a 20-24-17 type game, 24-21 game.
Alrighty, so Tulsa taking that nod, and really I think that game could be what I consider as like the first of many regular season playoff games because if Atlanta loses, that puts them at 4-6. It's hard to get into the playoffs from that sort of position. But we're gonna keep it in the South, and we're gonna keep it with some more playoff hopes down the line. The New Orleans Pharaohs, currently ranked number 9 in the SFL in terms of their just objective record, are heading over to Oklahoma City, who are currently 14th in the SFL. However, are essentially within a game of the playoffs. So this game right here is having huge implications on the wild card situation, especially for that ninth seed. So, Ryan, you're down here in the South with these 2 crazy kids. Which one of these 2 crazy kids do you think is gonna come out on top?
Oh man, to be honest, I'm really pulling for Oklahoma City. Down in the South, New Orleans is definitely in the hunt. We have a thick of teams that are literally within a game or game and a half, between a game and a half to a half a game of each other, and all of us are battling for that second seed, not even the final wild card spot. It's the second seed down there. And last week, New Orleans was able to pull out a win against Dallas. It was a little bit closer than I think they would have liked, especially considering they had to score 14 in the fourth quarter to actually pull out the win. Um, part of their part of their reason for the comeback was an accurate day for Xander Gold at the quarterback position. He only got 192 yards, but he was able to get 73% of his passes completed and 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. I mean, if he didn't break 200 yards, but the no interceptions and completing 73% of his passes, I'll honestly take that any day of the week. Um, the big factor in the game really was Donk Bonkers. He had only 20 carries, but he put up 180 yards rushing and two touchdowns, and he broke off a long run of 76 yards for one of those touchdowns. And he's looking like a really scary back actually as this season wears on. He's been putting up some numbers. He's been actually getting involved in the passing game quite a bit, and for that matter, in this game, he even had 8 receptions that gave him the most receptions in the game. He was 63 yards, the most receiving yards in the game. I mean, he is a player that will take over a game, and he showed it actually down there in New Orleans in that game against Dallas. He's a force to be reckoned with, and it's something they're really going to have to be able to take care of if take care of him if they're going to be able to continue on their little streak here and hopefully keep inside the playoff race there in the South. For Oklahoma City, sorry, they started out really sorry, they started out really well, and they've kind of fallen off. If memory serves me correct, I think they've lost like 3 of the last 4. I believe they were on a bye this last week, and the last game they actually played, they did come out on top of the Dallas Lobos as well, 25-22 back in week 8. Um, so we'll see what the kind of adjustments they did to their game plan for this upcoming game against New Orleans. It's I'm not entirely sure if I can put 100% faith in them. New Orleans has been really coming on as of late. They started out a little slow. So I think I'm gonna have to give the edge to New Orleans this week. But I honestly wouldn't be surprised if OKC does come out on top.
Yeah, I think something that's scary about New Orleans is the fact that not only are they not afraid to ground and pound the ball, but they also can air it out. They tend to go into that five wide receiver set, and something that's really dangerous, as Ryan just pointed out, is that they can be in five receiver wide, or they can be like a four receiver wide, and they can just go to dunk bunkers underneath all day, and this guy's just like killing people, in the flats, and then getting him on the ground if he gets moving behind that heavy tank. So I think that's something that's carrying New Orleans as well. So we have to look out for that for this week as well.
Yeah, absolutely. New Orleans. Again, another one of those essentially regular season playoff games. With most of these just kind of happening down south. Absolute craziness. But this next game does not have really major playoff implications, but it's more for spacing. Alaska at Sioux Falls. Alaska, the last time these two played, basically just put up a shutout. The only reason why Sioux Falls got 3 points because off of a garbage time field goal that I don't think anyone here counts. We all agree that that field goal didn't really count. That game was essentially a shutout.
Yeah, I'd pretty much call that a shutout. I mean, the defense was lights out, and it was against backups, and even the backups allowed a field goal. I just call it a shutout.
Yeah, yeah. Let's call it a shutout. But anyways, major game out west here. So Ramos, you're out west along with these two. These two. Do you think Sioux Falls is going to be able to pull further ahead of us, or do you think they're going to have to start dealing with tiebreakers?
Sioux Falls is one of those teams that like you really cannot predict what they're gonna do. I mean, there's gonna be one week where Julian Tyree is gonna go off and just throw post routes all day on you, and there's just gonna be days where Colin Hart just cannot gain a yard and defensively look kind of lost. Obviously they're still a really really good football team, but this is a very tough division where anybody can beat anybody. I do think it's a very tight division here. We've seen Vegas get within 3 against Alaska. We've seen Denver and Vegas 2 times. Is that kind of, well, one time is that kind of thing where it's like anybody can beat anybody in any given Sunday. But I think that in this particular game, they will just fall short. I don't think it's gonna be that game that we saw, where they will only able to score 3 points and they got well pretty much shut out. Um, I think it's gonna be closer this time, but I'll still give the edge to Alaska, to be honest with you. Um, and I think that Alaska, that is, I think they have the formula to stop this Sioux Falls team. I mean, they do have the two big time corners who can match up against the two wide receivers, right? Sioux Falls is more built to stop the run, where Alaska is more a pass heavy team. And I just like Alaska's build just a little bit more, better special teams. I think that right now they have just the better quarterback, at least this season. They do. So yeah, I think that Alaska will be able to win this one game closer than the last time, but I think that Alaska will be able to win kind of comfortably, something about 30 to 23, 30 to 20, around that area. So yeah, I think that Sioux Falls will need to just try to keep it close at the beginning, and if they are to lose this game, they still have three very tough divisional opponents. Here in the West is rough, man. Again, anybody can beat anybody, and they will need to pull off some big time uh, division wins. I mean, what's good for them is that including this game, three of the last four games that they have are at home, which is gonna be good for the Sioux Falls Sparrows. But still, I think that Alaska will be able to win on the road.
Yeah, and I think that Sioux Falls also needs to make sure that they protect home turf and definitely pull out these wins. I mean, they have a tough opponent in the Storm this weekend, and then they have also Mexico City breathing down their neck at 5-3, and then Las Vegas is you don't know what they're going to do. So we got to give kudos to Sioux Falls for being 6-2 in the Western Conference. But as Ramos said that Ramos, I'm sorry, said that this is a very very tough division, and they can easily drop 2 games, drop 3 games, and Las Vegas move up and Mexico move up as well. So definitely want to make sure that they get these wins going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably going to give that one to Alaska too on my end. Not only because I want to have to be more in the tiebreaker to Sioux Falls, but just as you guys said, they're objectively the better team. But now, before we get into the primetime games, and folks, we have the primetime game to end all primetime games on Sunday night. We're gonna have St. Louis head up to Chicago in the battle for Illinois. Chicago last week won what now ties, I think, as the lowest scoring SFL game ever. A 6-3 win over the Indianapolis Red Devils. Meanwhile, St. Louis received yet another clobbering, this time from the hands of Carolina 44-13. Not exactly the biggest game this week, but for Chicago, this could really help their playoff chances. Ryan, so looking at this game, it's clearly a rivalry game of some sorts, and St. Louis looking for a morale boost, Chicago looking for a playoff boost. Who do you think is going to get that needed boost?
Oh man, I, in my opinion, I'm thinking it's gonna be Chicago. St. Louis, they started off the season losing a game to, I believe it was the London Knights, and then they won 2 games back to back the next 2 weeks. Since that point, though, they have been on an absolute just massive, not even just a losing streak. Most of those games are pretty much blowouts. They had a 62-3 loss against Queen City, 42-20 loss to Denver. Last week was 44-13 to Carolina. Basically, what's going to need to happen for them is they're going to need almost the entire team, offense and defense, to really kind of ramp it up. Um, just the defense hasn't been there. The offense hasn't been able to counteract the defense not being there. It's been kind of a mess, and they're on a 6 game losing streak at the moment. Um, and I don't know if I can see them pulling it out here. Uh, the one bright spot I guess I could say for them last week would be that their run game got it more involved this last week with Denzel Diaz getting 24 carries and 127 yards. They did have a non-contract running back actually end up getting their one rushing touchdown. Um, and then the other part of that is Denzel Diaz. He led the team in receptions with 10 receptions and on 10 targets, basically all swing passes. But he only gathered 32 yards through the air, and that's not going to cut it. So basically, the offense has got to figure it out. The defense has got to figure it out, and that's what it comes down to. For Chicago, on the flip side, however, they basically, I don't know what they got to do, honestly. Last week was a 6-3 score against Indianapolis. Uh, they've been flipping back and they've been flipping back and forth throughout the season. They've been basically trading games back and forth, except these last 2 weeks, where had a two-game winning streak continue here. So they're on a two-game winning streak now.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the bottom of the Eastern Conference. Indy seems to be a tough team to score on, but they're 1-8. St. Louis can't get the running game going. London surprisingly gets a win. So we this is just going to be a crazy game. I think this weekend between St. Louis and Chicago.
Yeah, no, definitely. Although Chicago will probably pick up the win here and that much needed playoff boost. But now, guys, we got prime time to talk about. The first prime time game, some would say it's a doozy. I would think it's the SFL's equivalent to the game in college football. And much like the game, Carolina has only beaten Tallahassee twice in my lifetime. That's right, it's Tallahassee heading on down to Carolina. The only time these two teams will meet up is now we got to do the whole three-way thing. Ryan, let's start off with you here. Who do you think is going to take? Who do you think is going to take in this installment of the SFL's equivalent to the game?
For Carolina to take this one, I mean, they haven't done it very often. And I brought it up actually earlier off air before we started doing this today. In Tallahassee, since player progression started at the beginning of season 10, so last season, they've only lost one game entirely. And I mean, pretty much everybody, pretty much everyone in the SFL knows which game that was. Been a meme for quite a while now. But Frank over there in Tallahassee, he knows what he's doing. I mean, he ran into Mighty RX in the championship game, and the two of them duked it out, and Mighty came out on top. For Carolina to be able to do this, it's although they've been on fire this year, they've been doing really well. They've only lost one game, and then immediately after they lost that game, they came back and put a stomping on St. Louis, showing that they're really. It might have been a fluke, it might have not. We'll see. But I mean, their defense is tops in the league, basically. Not the top, but top up five, I believe it is, with only 133 points allowed. They've been a really hot team. Can they beat Tallahassee? I'm not entirely sure they can. I'm not going to put it past them with how they played this year, but it's going to be a very tall order to pull off. You got Christensen back there throwing the ball. He's got Ken Gossett. He's got, I think, believe it's Grayson Wilson. One of the not Wilson Willis, one of the Willis brothers that joined the league here partway through the season. He's got those two talented receivers. He can turn around, hand the ball off to Jaye and Eniola, and Eniola, when he gets the ball, I said it last week, and I mean, he still did it, and 171 rushing yards on the ground for Tallahassee. So I mean, he's still doing it. I mean, he's been doing it since week one. He put up 7.3 yards per carry with 24 carries and 176 rush yards. He only got the one touchdown, and I only say only because I feel like this man puts up like 3 or 4 a week. I mean, you look at highlights of a Tallahassee game, and about 80% of them this season look like it's going to be an Eniola touchdown. For Carolina, though, they've I'm not sure how you got to get rid of the ball quickly. Let's put it that way. They got the 4D lineman over there in Tallahassee. They can get pressure real fast on your quarterback, and
Hmm.
it's something that they're gonna have to really game plan for um, coming up this week. So we'll see how they go with that. I feel like they're gonna be able to get rid of the ball a little quickly, get some quick slant routes, maybe a couple one running back wheel routes, catch the defensive line kind of overcompensating more or less, I guess. Give that ball to AJ Francis, the Monstead, and see what he can do with it every once in a while. Um, just it's gonna be a tall order. It's gonna be really tough to do. I gotta give the edge to Tallahassee. Honestly, they're just like I said. They've only lost one game in the last 2 seasons combined, basically, and that was we all know what that one was. And so, I gotta give it to Tallahassee until I can be proven otherwise. I gotta give it to them.
Yeah, Luyendala, Miller, and AJ Francis have been carrying this Carolina team. And the defense has been doing this thing as well, but the defense really is going to have to step up this week if they want to stop Indiola and definitely stop Christian from passing all over them. So look for Carolina to probably beef up their defense. I think this week, and maybe they can try to at least try to hold these guys back for a little while, and get themselves in position to try to pull the game out.
Alrighty, so now with that, Ramos, gotta hand down the deciding pick. You obviously have a lot more historical knowledge on this rivalry here, so and you know that when these two teams meet, it's nothing but bad blood. Do you think that bad blood is really going to seep over in this game, and how do you think it's going to shape out? Is Carolina finally going to get another win in this historical rivalry?
Well, I mean, for the first time, I think we've seen this rivalry really produce probably one of the best games of the season. They have a combined one loss. I mean, it's if you combine the wins, um, it's pretty much almost a perfect season. So I think it's gonna be a tremendous game where it's gonna come down to which defense can stop their running back. We might see a game where both running backs combine for 350, 400 yards. You have Yaya and Diola in Tallahassee, which still a candidate, in my opinion, for MVP of the year. And you have a guy in AJ Francis, who I was calling the game with them on last week when they faced the St. Louis Gladiators. And what I was mentioning is that AJ Francis just cannot be stopped on first contact. It's incredible how he always or virtually always breaks the first tackle every single time. So it's going to be important for these two teams to be able to make tackles on first contact, on first attempt, and prevent those yards after the first contact. So it's just going to come down to that. I think that Tallahassee right now is a more solid team, even though I really like the quarterback, Jack Luyendula, even though I really like the right receivers. Harish Prasad is a really good young talent. Carolina's defense is really, really, really fast. They have Serge Chappelle at free safety. He is a really, really fast safety. Um, Kind of like a Earl Thomas kind of guy. He's like goes for fast from hash to hash. But I think that overall Tallahassee right now has just probably a little bit more, and I think they will have one more play to show for than the Carolina Skyhawks. So therefore, I will lean towards Tallahassee in a very high scoring affair. Even though I like both defenses, I think that on prime time, both offenses will show out, and I think that we'll see something like a 38-31 type of ball game. Sorry, where Tallahassee I think will be able to win in the last 3 minutes of the ball game.
Hey guys, I just got a text coming in. Hold on, it's from AJ. It says it says put some respect on the Skyhawks this weekend. So hopefully they can pull out the game this week.
Okay, well, maybe you should actually get AJ Francis on the show if you supposedly have his number there, man. Come on. But apparently week 10 they decided to book as essentially rivalry week. Guess we got on Friday Night Lights, folks? The return of the battle for North America. First time this has happened since Stevens was in bounds. Mexico City heading up to Vancouver, British Columbia to take on the Legion of Vancouver. Mexico City leads the series 2-1. And well, Ramos, I'm gonna actually swing it back over to you. Um, and start right there. Coming into this game with your own perspective, how do you think it's gonna shake up for Mexico City?
Again, it's gonna be, I think, a low scoring affair like we have been accustomed to the entire season. Really, last week we lost against Houston 17-14 on a late game winning drive. Then we had a game the week before against Alaska 12-3. Unfortunately, we have not been able to pull off those wins. The positive news for us is that we have only allowed 29 points in these two contests and only two touchdowns. So the defense has played pretty good, but we need to find our way on offense. I think that with the play progression, um, with adjustments and everything, we'll be able to hopefully have a better showing on Friday night. For Vancouver, I think that they have to control the ball. I think that they have two backs in the backfield. They're one of the few teams, I think the only team right now in the SFL that has two backs in the backfield. They have Cody Hill and they have Jonathan Sanchez, who Jonathan Sanchez was a running back. He has some speed as a fullback. So I think that Vancouver has a lot of pieces offensively to spread the ball around to the receivers, to the running backs, and defensively they have talent. They have Major Key, one of my favorite corners in the league. So Vancouver is a real team. Vancouver is a team that I really like, and hopefully we are able to pull off a victory, whether it's a lone scoring affair like we've been accustomed to, or whether our offense shows a little bit more like they did against, for example, Vegas, where we were able to score more than 30 points. So we shall see. We have to go and cross two borders, not only one. So it's gonna be an interesting game on the road.
Andy Hamilton is probably going to stab me for this, but look, I've been watching Vancouver all season, and look, this is the Legion of Who. Who is going to step up this weekend? Who is going to take over this team? I mean, I've seen some great offensive stuff from this team, and some great defensive plays from this team, but they're down at 2-6. They're 6.5 games behind, and this is the Legion of Who. So I challenge the Vancouver Legion to find out who is going to take over this team and who is going to get them back, or who is going to get them, catapult them into greatness, because I mean they're not a bad team whatsoever. And I really like the schemes that I see from them, but I'm just trying to see who is going to take over this team and put them in position to be a winner in SFL.
Yeah, that really is a big sort of thing right there. And Ryan, we're gonna send it over to you now. You, I think, are probably the most unbiased party here, since you're not even in the same conference as us home dudes. Who do you think is going to take this fourth installment of the battle for North America?
Well, I mean, immediately as soon as the schedule came to this week, the Discord blew up with basically Cade Stevens was in bounds. This is the rematch from two couple seasons ago. I believe it was season 9 when you guys were able to pull it out there with the controversial Cade Stevens call. Um,
Yeah. Well, you see, the refs made it up to us by clipping already, so that wraps up Battle of North America. But you know what? We're now going to go from Battle of the whole continent to what may as well be the Battle for the whole continent again, but for one state for football supremacy. We have the Houston Hyenas coming off of, let's not talk about that, taking on the Dallas Lobos in Dallas, Texas. The battle for Texas once again, everybody. Ramos, who's going to take this installment of this great SFL rivalry?
Well, I like both offenses quite a bit. Houston has the pieces offensively. I think with a good running back, they have a good quarterback to put points on the board, and we have Dallas who just throws the ball all day. It's like 98% of the plays are passes, and the other 2% they just throw it to the garbage can because they don't need it, and they just throw the ball all day long. So our partner here, Ryan Michaels, needs to be ready to stop Mike Osai. Like that's the guy. Mike Osai, even though it's on a team in Dallas who is not gonna reach the playoffs, this is a potential MVP player. If not MVP, maybe he will get Offensive Player of the Year. It's incredible what he's done. He gets targeted all game long, and no defense is able to stop him or contain him for that matter either. So I think that overall, Houston has a more balanced, well rounded out roster and offensive and defensive philosophies, if I may say it that well. They rush the passer well. They have a good run stopping defense. They have Blake Chance, Ryan Michaels, Eddie Gates, and others on the secondary. On offense, they have very good wide receivers in Aslauni and DR Sam as always. Yasin Clifton is one of my favorite tight ends, probably other than my own guy, Mike Dax. Probably he will be my favorite tight end here in the SFL. So I think that Houston overall has a more solid squad at this point of the season. and I think they will be able to pull it off because the ball will be flying from Dallas. I think that Houston will be able to get their paws on the ball. Probably will get a few interceptions, 3 interceptions probably, because that's what they do. Dallas, they just sling the ball over the place, and even though they get intercepted, they just continue to throw the ball. So I think that a talented secondary like Houston will be able to make some interceptions, and therefore I think they will be able to turn those interceptions into points, and therefore will be able to win the ball game in the high 30s. I don't know, 37 to 31, approximately.
Hey guys, I'm getting a text message. Hold on, it's coming from Kintes. He says, "Put some respect on his name. They're 4-4, Southern Conference. I think they're gonna win this weekend."
How many people in the SFL's contacts do you have, Rob?
I got them all, man. I got them all.
Rob Roby, the insider for everybody.
He somewhat gotten all of our numbers, despite the fact that we've never even told him where
Yeah,
we live.
I got my
Well,
SFL Pokemon cards. Got to catch them all. Yeah.
maybe we should do that. No, I mean mine would just be smacking everyone into oblivion.
I mean, if I remember right, Stephen Molinex over there in Dallas, he did some trading cards for his boys.
Oh wow, nice.
Well, he also made that shirt in season 10, quote unquote, which got me in some hot water over a comment I made about them. But that's neither here nor there. Ugh. Where were we? Oh yeah,
Yeah, Houston and
Ryan.
Dallas. Yeah. I'll
Yeah,
I'll
Houston,
take over
Dallas.
for you.
We're gonna. Yeah. Talk about the game, Ryan.
All right, yeah. So basically, what it's going to come down to is the Houston secondary going against the Dallas passing offense. Um, Now you can't count out their copper running back and Royce Robbins. They can throw some swing passes. They've been able to get him involved in a few games this season. Um, but what everybody knows, basically, Dallas has been a pass happy team since they came into the league. This season seems to be more so than other seasons. Um, so what it's going to come down to in this game, honestly, is the defense of Houston going against Dallas is off passing offense. Honestly, it's just that's just the bread and butter of it. That's just clean, cut and dry. That's gonna, in my opinion, is gonna be the exact focal point of this game. Um, if if you get in another spot of it, Warren Murray is gonna be the other part of it. Um, Houston's got to be able to get their running game going again. They have some weeks where Warren Murray just goes off and he goes for about 100 yards almost in the first half. The team pretty much coasts the rest of the way. Um, the thing with it is they have to be able to get him involved. Kentez has got to be able to take care of the ball. It's what needs to be happening basically. Um, for the Houston secondary, you got to be able to figure out a way to shut down all four receivers for Dallas. So they got Mike Osai, junior, senior, third. They got Mason Kirby. They got Crash Combs. Then you have to worry about the swing passes and the run game with Royce Robbins. I mean, they have a lot of weapons on offense. The one shortcoming basically this season has been the defense hasn't been able to stop opponents as often as they would like and get themselves off the field. Um, so if Dallas is going to win this game, that offense has got to keep going. They got to keep firing on all cylinders, and that defense is going to have to step up and keep Houston offense in check. Um, if they're able to do that, I believe Dallas is going to would be able to pull out the victory. But I do have to give the edge to Houston. I mean, besides the fact that they're my team, I just feel that they overmatch Dallas basically. The defense of Houston plays pretty well. They've had a few games where they they've been kind of pushed around on the ground game, so I feel Steven Molinex over there will have a possibility of adding a few run plays in there, hoping to get the same result. But I got to give the edge to Houston. I do expect a slightly higher scoring game, probably around 31, 28, maybe 24.
Yeah, yeah, I'm feeling you there, Ryan. But you know what else I'm feeling? I'm feeling some old school SFL. And you know what? The Monday night game for this week is the perfect, I guess, embodiment of that. As we have the Baltimore Vultures heading up to take on the Queen City Corsairs. Or as we may as well put it, the Baltimore Crabs heading up to take on the New York Knights. Which, by the way, if they don't do that throwback for that game, I'm going to be extremely disappointed. Just overall, if they don't do that, shame on Eric and TJ for that. Ugh. But Ramos, you've had a personal throw into this rivalry, obviously being part of the Baltimore Crabs organization. How do you feel as if this installment of this legendary SFL rivalry is going to be shaking out?
I would like to see the those uniforms again. Now that you mention it, it will be really cool to see the Baltimore Crabs all uniforms back in season 3 against the New York Knights. That was the first game I watched as an SFL fan, and I just uh for the ones who have not seen it, like I will try to put a link somewhere on the Discord for you to watch that game, season 3 opening game between the Baltimore Crabs and the New York Knights. Is one of the best games in SFL history till this day. I'm still upset to Cam that he didn't put it on the top 9 games back in season 9, but either way, going here to season 11, this is a tremendous ball game where Queen City, coming off a loss, will try to get revenge on the Baltimore Vultures. Almost did it. On the
Just call them the Crabs.
Baltimore Vultures. Yeah, on the Vultures, who they have a really good defense, and I think that that defensive build especially kind of is built towards stopping the Queen City Corsairs because they have two very fast linebackers in Takes and Dazo who are able to go sideline to sideline and stop that power all that the Queen City Corsairs have done for many, many, many seasons. So I think that they match up well on that regard. I think that the Queen City Corsairs, um, bread and butter obviously is the run, and they will try to force that run on that defense. So it's gonna be very, very interesting to see which unit gives. Uh, Looking offensively for the Baltimore Vultures, they have themselves a really, really talented young running back in T. Roy Gaines, who's shown a lot of power in the last few weeks. They have a really talented and veteran quarterback in Mike Dazo. So a really good kicker in Shark Tarkenton. So they won this a couple of weeks back on just kicks alone, almost. So I think that overall this is gonna be a tremendous ball game. But I do not see the Queen City Corsairs number one drop back-to-back games, number two getting swept by the Baltimore Vultures this season. So I will go with Queen City in this one. Short, not short, but sorry, low scoring affair, uh, really close, 21-17.
You know why it's going to be a low scoring affair, Ramos?
What's that?
Because they got Cass McFly out there, man. Shut down corner.
Oh yeah, the no McFly zone.
Man, man, you and Kaz McFly, man.
Yeah, man. There's only one guy flyer than Cas McFly, and that's Marty McFly. You guys might not know who that is, but anyway, yeah, I
Yeah.
think that Baltimore is on a roll right here. They are 5-1 since they signed Cas McFly, and that defense is looking crazy. So this will be a good game. Queen City, while a very very good opponent, they kind of sometimes don't score. So we got to see how that defense of Baltimore pans out and how they play against Queen City. So that should be a very, very good primetime game. I'm excited about that one.
All right, so now Ryan, before we go, you're giving the last one this week. I can't remember if I always give you this one, but you're getting the one this week at
I,
least.
I, I feel like you give me the last one almost all the time, but I mean, I'll accept it.
Yes, I'm a gracious man. Um,
Well, I don't know how
all
gracious. I
right.
mean, you're taking so many tackles from your other defense players, man.
Hey, it's called a got to keep up appearances somehow. I'm now only half a tackle ahead of the next highest down the tackles per game rating.
Well, you
This is
know.
very infuriating, Ryan. Come on, you don't understand it.
Sorry, I didn't mean for our
Oh
game to ruin your tackles per game.
This is a stat I hold with high praise. Um, but
But yeah, so Baltimore, Queen
Ryan,
City. Oh man, this I believe this is actually gonna be a really tough game. Honestly, it's gonna be something that's really gonna be a slugfest for the defenses. Baltimore's defense flies all over the field. Queen City, I mentioned it earlier, they have the best scoring defense in the league. Um, Not only that, they also allow the fewest yards total, I believe, per game. I'm going to double check that real quick while I'm talking here. Um, is there's these two defenses are just they flat out ball. I mean, they go at you, they shut you down any way they possibly can. Queen City's got the best, I think, the best rushing defense. Yeah, the best rushing defense in the league. Um, Short and a little bit down the list, right there is Baltimore. They're both top seven basically. Passing yards a game. Queen City's right there at number five. A little bit further down is Baltimore. That's their one little weakness is that. Um, but if you're gonna give up yards, they live basically by that motive of if bend don't break basically. They don't allow very many points per game. They're actually I believe the seventh or sixth best defense in the league at allowing points per game at only 19.25. Queen City, I keep saying that they're the best points against per game, and they actually are at 13.89. So I mean, there's only a 6 point difference, about 6.5 point difference between the two teams, and or 5.5 points difference between the two teams. And so I feel like this game's going to be a defensive slugfest. I think it won't be quite as the Chicago and Indianapolis game this last week at 6-3, but I could easily see this going about 7-10 possibly. And I think as far as the game goes, I think I'm going to give the edge to Queen City. Strictly just because the defense has just been that good. Their defense, the best points, best yards. They're one of the tops in third down percentage. Actually, they're the top in third down percentage. So they get off the field really quickly. They got a turnover differential of +4. So they have a way to get their defense off the field, and then they have that offense to help counter that too. They have Ash Odom back there. They're rushing almost 200 yards a game, and that's only zero point 0.8 yards above Tallahassee. But both of those teams are 40 yards above the third place team in Carolina with AJ Francis. So the defense they don't have to spend as much time on the field if you're going to be able to run that ball and run it really effectively and just constantly be getting first downs. Um, for Queen City, they've let's see, they've gotten 52% of their third downs converted. Baltimore's right below them at 50%. So, and just like keep saying it, but the game is going to come down straight to defenses. And if based off the defense and based off the numbers, I got to give it to Queen City.
Okay, so there we go, folks. Ryan giving that final pick. And you know what that final pick means? It's the end of the SFL podcast this week. We're sorry, folks. But that has been the SFL podcast presented to you exclusively by APM Music through the power of YouTube. I am your host, Jack Brown. And actually, you know, a quick shameless self plug before we go. Tonight, from when this goes up on Friday, I'm actually calling a Bloomfield Hills High School Blackhawks football game on 88.1 WBFH The Biff. You can listen to it online on WBFH.FM. If you want to hear me ramble about football and call a football game while also watching Mexico City take on Vancouver. You gotta love shameless self promotion, guys. It's so fun.
I'll allow it. I think I'll leave that in there.
Yeah, you better, Ryan. Anyways, I'm Jack Brown alongside Ryan Michaels, Ramos Lynn, and Rob Roby of Round Table. So long and have a great weekend full of SFL football.